Kotor, Montenegro was one of my favorite port stops on my Regent Seven Seas cruise from Venice to Athens. When we cruised into the Kotor Bay, we saw a beautiful body of water surrounded by the majestic Montenegrin mountains. I had an early scheduled excursion to maximize the time in port, and we took off in a motorcoach at 8:15 a.m. We drove directly up 27 switchbacks to the top of the mountain and were treated to glorious views, not only of the Kotor Bay, but over the mountains you could also see the Adriatic. We all took some selfies and pictures, then were invited to enjoy some snacks at a restaurant that overlooked the bay. It was a wonderful way to start the morning. These videos really don't do justice to the beautiful views. After this stop, we continued on the road over the mountain to the town of Cetinje. It is a tiny village and was once the capital city. We went to the Museum of King Nicola, which was interesting, but after a while I got a bit antsy to see more of the town and decided to leave the group. I was glad I did, as I was able to see so much more. The town consists of just a few blocks of shops and restaurants, but if you walk a little bit out of town, you run into the castle church, scenic park-like areas, and the Cetinje Monastery, which is a Christian Orthodox monastery containing sacred relics. It was originally built in the 1400s, destroyed in the 1600s, and rebuilt in 1704 on the medieval ruins. Again, I was glad I set off to explore. The mountains that surround the town with the wooded areas make for a very picturesque setting. Back on the bus, we traveled on a big loop which took us down to the seaside town of Budva. It is a major resort town which is part of the Budva Riviera. It is considered the center of Montenegrin tourism. Evidently, there was a major earthquake here in 1979. However, the city has been completely rebuilt. Unfortunately, we were not able to stop in Budva, but it was nice to take in a little history as we drove through. We drove back to Kotor and visited the Old Town. This was one of several walled cities we saw as part of the cruise, and it wasn't as large as Dubrovnik's. However, it certainly had its charms. Once again, I left the tour group so I could hike to the top of St. John's Fortress. It was a somewhat excruciating hike over very uneven surfaces with no handrails. They charged $8 to hike up there, so it would have been nice to put some of that money into safety on the path. It was definitely poorly maintained. Eventually, I reached this little church-like building that wasn't open. At the time, I thought I had reached the pinnacle and was a bit underwhelmed. I realized when I got back down that I hadn't gone all the way to the top. Not that I would have gone any farther. The path was just too treacherous. If anyone has been to the top, you can tell me what I missed. Of course, the views looking down on the old town and the Kotor Bay were spectacular, and I did enjoy watching this cat bouncing on the wall and taking in the views. Back down in the old city, I wandered in and out of shops and galleries and admired the ancient architecture. There is the Church of St. Tryphon, a Romanesque church built in 1166 and extensively restored after the 1667 earthquake. I made my way to a walkway that traverses the top of the wall. It gave you a better perspective on some of the buildings within the walled city, and it also gave you some nice outlooks on the port of Kotor and the mountains. Lots of prospects that just scream for you to get your camera out. It was easy to get turned around in the city since there were numerous winding pathways. However, it isn't that large of a town, and I eventually made my way to the entrance and headed back to the ship. On our way out of port that night, we were again blessed with spectacular views of the mountains and bay. Please look for more of my videos on the Regent Seven Seas Venice to Athens route, and if you'd like to follow more of my senior and solo travels, please click subscribe below. Cheers!